I'm Wendy Wilson, and I'd like to welcome you to another edition of Realizing Potential. I have the most lovely woman in the studio with us today, quite poised, professional, and just whip smart. I've admired her for quite some time, but she's here to share with us certainly a little bit about her academic and her career backgrounds, but a specific project that she's involved with that's also impacting the city of Albany. She's none other than the lovely Miss Latoya Cutts.
Hello.
Hello there. I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Good. It's good to see you. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. Small group of people out there. Small group of people out there who don't know who you are. So let's educate them. Tell them where you're from, your academic pursuits, what degrees you earned, and then we'll go into your career path.
Sure. So for those who don't know me, my name is Latoya Cutts, and I'm actually from Americus, Georgia. So just a few miles north of here. So yeah, most people here know where Americus is. In terms of education, I actually got my bachelor's degree from Georgia Southwestern in Americus. So I have a bachelor's in business administration with a concentration in marketing. That's the area of focus. I have a master's that I received from Troy University, and that master's is in leadership and organizational effectiveness. And then I have a second master's, which is the one that I actually got more recently in 2019 from Georgia Tech. And so that, of course, I'm extremely proud of because it directly relates to the work that I have the pleasure of doing now. So that master's is in real estate development. Mm-hmm. Actually, Georgia Tech started a new program in 2017, I think was when that program was introduced. And so I was one of the first students that had the pleasure of being in that program. So that's my educational background.
I love it, part of that inaugural class. I love that. So now what was the interest, and I like to always share this with students, that you may start off in one area, but of course it will shift, go with your passion and what life is calling you to do. So it sounds like, and although I'm sure you would say, well, they do somewhat connect, but you now are in a specialized discipline. So what was the interest to go and pursue that, or what led to that interest?
So I worked in a couple of roles working with the city of Albany, and one of my earlier roles with the city was that I served as the director for community and economic development with the city of Albany. And in that role, a big part of the responsibility of our department was really to do community development work throughout the city of Albany, but more so in areas that had the greatest need. And so if you look at some of the areas of communities where you had not seen development opportunities happen, if you looked at areas where in terms of the residents and the community that needed to have programs that would help to assist to redevelop that area. So that was some of the earlier work that I had the pleasure of doing, and we had maybe 26 different programs that we administered as a part of that department. So really got a chance to kind of see hands-on like what the needs of the community was, and to be able to kind of help make sure that we were providing programming that filled those needs. But the part that I think I was always a little, that I felt was always missing, is that we never really got an opportunity to do true development work. We could actually partner with developers. We were able to partner with other nonprofit organizations or CHODOs, community housing development organizations that were doing that work. But we ourselves, during my tenure in that role, we spent a lot of time, what I consider to be like cleaning up some of the things of the past and really trying to implement systems that would help to ensure that the department would run well going forward. But then I had the pleasure of kind of being in a different role with the city. And so when I was hired as the downtown manager, kind of served in a dual role also as the director for the Downtown Development Authority, as well as the Albany-Doherty Inner City Authority, because the city of Albany has two development authorities. And so I worked as downtown manager. That was considered my city job, I guess, if you looked on, but also I served in that capacity as executive director for those two entities. And so that job was really more directly related to downtown redevelopment work. It was really looking at opportunities to do true development work throughout the the downtown area. And so I had the pleasure of working with developers, but also looking at a lot of the property that was actually owned by the Development Authority or by the City of Albany, and to try to identify opportunities for us to work on development projects. In my kind of brief time in that role, some of the projects that I had the pleasure of working on was the microbrewery project for downtown, the Flats, what most people know now as the Flint restaurant, and then also Front Street Market, and then also even the initiation of or the initial phases of the Albany Museum of Art, approaching them and having the conversations about them relocating to downtown Albany. So over just a 2-year time span, all of those projects started, and I really just kind of saw that I had a true passion for being able to kind of start things from the very beginning and being able to help bring them to life. And so that's when I really, really knew that that was where my passion was. That was, and it wasn't about something that was easy to do. It was really about taking something that was more or less an idea and being able to figure out how to make it happen. So that's kind of how I ended up where I am now.
Well, first of all, let me applaud you. That's a very impressive portfolio to have achieved all of those, planting the seeds, and then in some cases see the yield from those seeds within a short 2-year period of time. I also want to commend you because there was some very intention in that process. And the reason I share that is oftentimes, depending upon the economic condition in states of a municipality or any entity, and if it's on the lower side, then it's just not a priority. Because you just stay in the mindset of just trying to survive and meet the immediate needs of the citizens. So then to take that, of course, achieve that goal, work to constantly achieve that goal, and then to couple that with the decision that this community is deserving of so much more. The potential is here. Let's take some deliberate steps to achieving that. So you're definitely to be applauded for that.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
So I'm glad you honored that calling. You said, let me go and make this official, get some credentials in this area. You earned the master's degree. So what then evolved, because you certainly had an impressive reputation and had an impact in this area. So now coupled with the degree, what was the next?
So the next was one of those things where, you know how we think that there's this clear path to, it's like you're going to go to school as soon as you finish, especially because I was what I consider to be a seasoned professional. I'd already worked in the field, but now I was just going to actually get the credentials to go along with that. So I finished the program in 2019. So I graduated in the spring of 2019 from Georgia Tech, and then I was actually working on a project, kind of in a consulting capacity, and then some things kind of didn't necessarily move forward with that particular project. So it was all about, at that point now, I found myself looking for a job, so to speak. Although I knew the work that I wanted to do, so it was a little bit easier in terms of like what you're looking for. You're not just looking for a general job, you're looking for a job that offers you the opportunity to do or to follow a career path that you've chosen to follow. So looking at other development authorities, trying to find roles that were similar to what I was doing with the City of Albany, but that role had been filled. They'd already hired, of course, a new downtown manager, so that wasn't an option to be able to come back to the role that I once had. But I was contacted by a recruiter, and the recruiter contacted me about a role in Jackson, Mississippi, to actually go there and to be able to serve as the executive director for the Jackson Redevelopment Authority. And so I accepted that role, went there, and was there for under a 1-year contract with options for renewal.
Okay.
And one of the interesting things, and if you're ever or have been in church, you'll hear Pastor Simmons kind of talk about that they brought me back from Jackson, Mississippi. I think that it's divine intervention that that 1-year contract, when things were kind of coming close to the 1-year mark. Prior to that, some of the conversations had already started with Pastor Simmons and with others on the board about what was happening with the Harlem Renaissance Project. And so we kind of had some conversations and it all just kind of worked out. It was perfect timing. And I always say it was his time.
It was in divine order.
Absolutely.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that story. And so for those who may not be familiar, there's lots of buzz and certainly some significant work that has already taken place with the Harlem Renaissance Project. Tell our viewers what that entails, what that looks like, and our date in which we can see this, again, deserving piece, added piece to our community.
So the Harlem Renaissance Project, wow, like how do you describe it? And I say the same thing almost every time, that it is going to be a transformational project. Not just for the historic Harlem District, but for downtown Albany and for the city of Albany as a whole. When we think about what the historic Harlem District was back in the time where Black people couldn't go anywhere else to shop, when you think about that there were Black professionals who were there were Black store owners who were there were any in every area that we as a people would have needed to go and shop or to visit, then all of those services, all of those things were in the historic Harlem District. I wasn't there, but when you hear people talk about it, it really gives you a sense of pride to know what a thriving community it was at that time. And so over time, the fact that it wasn't there anymore, when I think about transformation, it really is kind of going back and picking up where that left off. And so some of the things when we talk about the Harlem Renaissance Project, it's to reclaim, restore, and reinvigorate. And I say the is intentional. Is because it's not new. It was something that was there before, but this transformational project has the opportunity to be able to capitalize on the history of what was, but also to be able to build something new and even greater that really does draw all people. Because I think it's also important when you are doing a project like this, while the historic Harlem Business District was once an area where primarily African Americans were, I think it's not just about being a place for us, but being a place for everyone, where it draws all people together and gives them an opportunity to be a part of actually reclaiming what was there, but also moving forward into something that's absolutely amazing. So this project has multiple, it's multifaceted in the sense that it is, you say live, work, play. That's what everybody talks about when it comes to downtown development and development as a whole. Most developments that you see now, they're not one-dimensional. They have a living option that's a part of the development, and then they have a working option that's a part of the development, and then they have an opportunity for people to be able to just play and enjoy. And this project is no different. It's really kind of bringing all aspects at the same time. It has a housing. There's going to be a mixed-use building that will have office space on the bottom floor, commercial office space on the bottom floor. And then on the second and third floor, there will be 52 housing units that will be able to provide, we consider it workforce and affordable housing. It will be able to have those housing options, whether it's for young professionals, nursing students that are, some of which won't be able to be housed in the Live and Learn Center that's being built under the new project that's a part of Phoebe and Albany Technical College. So we're hoping that those students, Albany State students, whether it's professionals, other professionals from other areas, that they're able to live there and be right there. And then one of the most special parts to this project is actually to actually have the Carter's Food Dining Hall. Everyone knows that this site is what used to be Carter's Grill Restaurant. And so there was a promise that was actually made to Mr. Carter that whatever happened, that site would continue in some way to be able to honor the legacy and the history of Carter's Grill Restaurant. So it'll be Carter's Food Dining Hall. So not just one restaurant, but having 5 food options that are inside of that food hall, and that'll be the place that actually draws people together. And then there's a health and wellness center that'll be on the north parcel, where the Samaritan Clinic will be moving or relocating there and actually expanding their services. And then there will be several other medical and wellness or health and wellness service providers that'll be located there. So it really does offer every single thing that's required to have a true vibrant community.
That's outstanding. Yeah, I was finishing your sentence, a full array, and certainly respective of each of the aspects of a healthy and well life, where we live, where we work, and creating, and certainly I love the physical piece to it, the wellness, the care of our entire being, and to have that in a central spot is just absolutely outstanding. It sounds like you all thought of everything. Give us some dates. What's the timeline for everybody wants it to be over with, I know, in a good way, to start taking advantage of that. But we know that it takes some time.
That's right. And development takes time, right? And one of the most important things is that we're kind of still in the capital campaign phase.
Okay.
So we're kind of finalizing our capital stack and really feel like that we'll have that kind of finalized in the next few months. But phase one of this project there will be a groundbreaking in the winter of this year. So we're saying early winter. Can't say like it'll be this month. We don't want to say, well, whether it's September or October, but somewhere in that time frame, we're expecting to actually have the project be ready to start construction.
Excellent.
And we're super excited.
As you should be, as we all are, and fair enough, because once you put that one specific date, then people want to hold, and things happen. Because I understand we're still having some logistical challenges in terms of anything that's related to development and construction, that there's still some delays. So as a result of the pandemic. So,
it was a process.
Yeah,
for sure.
Absolutely. Well, I'm just elated that you are a part of that process, and it is so needed in that area, and then many areas across this region. And certainly within Southwest Georgia and Albany specific. So hopefully this will be the catalyst for others like that throughout.
I'm happy that you use the word catalyst, and that that is what we see this project as. We don't see this as the only. We see this as the beginning of investment being made into Harlem. I know that the city has funding that they have allocated towards the Civil Rights Institute and some of the revitalization or redevelopment that needs to happen to the Civil Rights Institute. And so I think that coupled with this, as well as some of the other many opportunities in terms of heritage and cultural tourism and really drawing people to the historic Harlem area, this project will be a catalyst to help bring people back to the community, but also not just bring them there, but keep them there so that they live there, they work there, they play there. They don't just come in to see those cultural and tourism type attractions, but they're there to actually stay and be a part of them every day.
That's the key, being a part of them on a daily basis.
Absolutely.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for sharing. I'm really excited. Please continue to keep us apprised. But before, as to the progress and how Albany State specifically can help with that effort, because we are certainly a part of a pillar of this community and want to be a major contributor in any way that we can. But before we wrap up, it's just only fair that we provide this to the viewers. You've shared what you've done so well on a professional level, but just as this, you talked about that this whole project is multifaceted, multidimensional. So are you. So share with the viewers. We'll begin with the question, what book has most impacted your life that you find yourself going back to, or just reading, or recalling is the word that I want to use, outside of your preferred religious text?
So I thought about this, and I said that I was initially going to tell you another book, but I thought about something, and I said, Who Moved My Cheese?
Okay.
That's a simple book, but I often find that even if I'm in a new environment and I need to kind of do an icebreaker, sometimes I'll use that as a way to be able to start the conversation, because I think that the one lesson that book teaches us is that change is inevitable.
Indeed.
And so in order for you to really be able to continue moving forward, it's all about understanding that change is inevitable, and the quicker or the faster that you adapt to change and kind of understand that, then the farther it allows you to be able to go in life.
I would fully agree. I'll have to go back and read, because that was back in, was that 80s, I think?
Yes.
Not to date you and I.
And then there was an updated version of Who Moved My Cheese.
I'll have to go back and read it. It did not, I may not have been in a emotionally intelligent state to embrace it like I should have, but I remember its popularity, and I think I had to read it for an assignment, and I never kind of just connected to it like I know so many people did. It was, oh my gosh, it still remains, one of the top bestsellers. But excellent choice in the example that you provided, and the whole premise of the book is that. And why is it so? And my both hands in the air. It's just so hard for us to embrace the reality. Change is like we breathe every day.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but we just don't. We don't want to do what you want us to do. So yeah, so that's a great example. You have the opportunity to invite 3 people to dinner that our viewers may or may not be familiar with. They could be still walking this earth or no longer with us. Who are those individuals, and what would you serve?
So the first person, I'd make it a family member, and that family member would be my great-grandmother.
Okay.
And I can't believe I'm saying this, but I think what I would actually serve is black-eyed peas.
Okay.
Right? Because I did not like them.
Really?
But she cooked them all the time.
Oh.
And I think that now I understand that the nutrients that were in those black-eyed peas was all about something that was so simple, but she put a lot of love in those.
Sure.
So it was, this is what we have. This is what I'm able to be able to feed you.
Yes.
And there's a lot of love that goes along with that. So I would love to have the opportunity to be able to just sit down with her. And I think a lot of things, I was maybe too young and not at a point of growth yet where I understood the value of some of the lessons that she could share, and just some of the history of our family, some of the things that I really would love to be able to know about, and just ask and get an understanding from her firsthand. But I had a lot of respect for her, and she had this very quiet wisdom about her. And I think that now what I've learned is that as you get older, you don't really have to make a lot of noise to have a lot of impact, because she is what I consider to be one of the most influential people in my life.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
So that's number one. The second person, I would actually invite Michelle Obama.
Okay.
And the reason I would invite Michelle Obama is because my mother-in-law, she's deceased now, but she used to always tell me that I was her Michelle, and she wouldn't say Obama, she'd say Mobama, that I was her Michelle Mobama. And, I really considered, even then, I thought that was such an honor.
Absolutely.
But one of the things that I would love to be able to serve her is really just a glass of lemonade. And a glass of lemonade because I see a really sweet spirit about her, but I also see something that is steadfast. No matter where we go, where you are in life, lemonade is always pretty much served, right?
Sure.
It's available. And I think that that's something that I could easily make that she'd actually like it, because I'm not a great cook. But I just love to be able to just kind of sit down and talk with her, and just to soak up some of her wisdom. Mm-hmm. She's got also, similar to my grandmother, I think she has this spirit about her that is, she doesn't make a lot of noise, but what she says, that she means whatever it is.
Indeed.
And I think that her level of intellect and the way that she's withstood some things that most people couldn't withstand, and she's done it with such grace.
Yes.
And so I just admire her in a way that I cannot explain.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I have to concur with your mother-in-law's thought, because there is a shared regalness and poise. So I do see a lot of similarities. When you said it, I'm like, oh, absolutely. I see that. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
I consider that an honor, because I think the same thing about you.
Oh, thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Give me one more.
So I think the third person, and these people, they're still living, or they could be living.
Yeah. If you like, it doesn't matter.
The third person, and this is, I think it's had to have the opportunity to be able to sit with Pastor Simmons. I often have the opportunity to talk to him, but I think he has a lot going on. But one of the things that similar to my grandmother, and very similar to Michelle Obama, people have this sense of him being this person that is unapproachable. But I think he's very approachable. But I also think he's extremely humble. And I think he has a lot of wisdom that he can share, and a lot of, even as it relates to this project, he often talks about timing, that it's not our timing, it's God's timing. And I just think that he is a calm, or he represents this calm, but he represents this knowledge that I'd really love to just have the opportunity, and him to have the time to be able to just sit down and really be able to share some of that.
Yeah. So he's a great choice, and as I was listening to you, there's almost I don't know if I want to use the word duality, but I'll use that. But you spoke earlier when you were speaking about Michelle Obama, about her unique ability to have a presence without being loud or even sometimes saying a word.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then when she does speak, there's, wisdom and eloquence. And he is very much like that.
I would agree.
Yeah, so he does have a very quiet presence, which I think may be disarming to people because he's not always vocal about what he's thinking, but his impact is still,
Absolutely.
prevalent and movement without saying a word. And then when he does speak, the power that comes and his ability to transform. I've observed him to be a very astute assessor of the moment and the times, and as you use the word, timing. Yeah. So he has that unique ability to live dually, if you will, in both of those spaces, and that is a very I think a very divine gift to be able to do that. And as we move through life, and particularly in these professional spaces, that's a characteristic that we need to all embody, that you can convey very powerful and intentional messages without always being the loudest or speaking in the room. Yeah.
I agree. And the way that you articulated that, if only I could have said it exactly the way that you said it. That's exactly what I was thinking. But I also think that with him, there's a lot of conversation around legacy.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we think about this project and this being a catalyst, but also understanding that after this project, there's so many more opportunities to be able to do great work throughout this city, and making sure that we do it with the right heart and the right spirit, and with also being able to discern that there are some things that are within our ability to do and some things that are maybe outside of the realm of what we do. I'd like to kind of tap into his ability to kind of discern and really be able to make decisions about, as we talk about legacy, as we talk about what work is our work to do, how do you decide? How do you make the decisions in terms of which things you personally get involved in and make it a point to do, so that you don't take the wrong opportunities just for the sake of doing work, but that you do work that really is going to have a lasting impact.
That's good, yeah. I know our producer is signaling we need to wrap up. I had a conversation with a close friend yesterday, and she was sharing about her sister wanting to was invited to be a ghostwriter, and I'll maintain their confidence, but this is a well-known person. And she said, are you sure you want to do that? And she's like, well, yes, she asked, and of course I have to do it. And she says, but is that part of your calling? Is that part of your ministry, if you will?
Absolutely.
Because people will come, and I'm sure you get this all the time, because you do so many things very well, and then specialize, then the assumption is, well, of course, she can do this, she can do this, she can do this, and she can do this.
That's right.
Yeah. So you then have to exercise the discernment to say, but is that what I am then called to do?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I love that. I've enjoyed speking with you.
And I've enjoyed speaking with you.
I'm so excited about the project, that you were back, I have to agree, with Dr. Simmons on you coming back and continuing to till the soil here for generations to come. And I love the piece about which I see this whole conversation, the legacy piece and catalyst. But please know we await you coming back to let us know the progress of the project, and again, how we can further support that.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Wilson, for having me here. It's been my pleasure.
Anytime. Continued success.
Thank you.
Viewers, thank you so much for joining me for this edition of Realizing Potential. I'm Wendy Wilson, and I look forward to seeing you next time.